What's up, guys? It's Patricia from tarantulaheaven.com. I have Miss Spidey in her enclosure underground right now. She is a Chilean rose hair. And today for Tarantula Tuesday, where I talk about spiders and tarantulas and anything related to them, I am talking about a video series that came in my recommended on YouTube. You guys may have know about this show, but it was my first time discovering it. And this is called The Kings of Pain series on, I believe, the Discovery Channel or one of those nature channels. And it's actually a really interesting series to watch. However, I don't completely agree with it, specifically related to tarantulas, but I actually did end up binge watching a few episodes because it was kind of fascinating. But I will say that the episode that was recommended to me had to do with the tarantulas, being on Kings of Pain, because YouTube knows that I like tarantulas, so I see all sorts of stuff. And this particular episode actually made me feel really terrible and confused about how ethical this kind of show is. So in the show, the two hosts, basically the premise is they take turns letting dangerous creatures bite them, or creatures that can hurt them bite them, and then they kind of rate the pain scales, and it's kind of like a documentary about how much pain can they take, what are the side effects of these kind of bites. They have been bitten or stung by piranhas, sea urchins, tarantulas, snakes, a poisonous lionfish or something like that. They really do push their limits as far as the amount of pain that they are willing to take for their show. And some of those episodes were not that bad, but I felt like the way that they treated the tarantulas in their episode was kind of terrible. And also there was a bunch of inaccurate information in the video. So I wanted to address it in this video. Now, there were two different types of tarantulas that they did in this particular documentary. One was, they said it was a Goliath bird-eating tarantula. However, I don't believe that at all. I think that they accidentally misrepresented the tarantula. That's labeled the tarantula that they got, because this tarantula looked quite small compared to the images that I've seen about actual Goliath bird-eating tarantulas. And so even like down to the type of hair that's on the tarantula, I don't believe that this was the right species. So that was one inaccuracy. And the other tarantula that they did this with was the OBT, and that was actually an OBT. So they did this by having the tarantulas, and I will say that I am sure that they have some sort of emergency protocol in case the animal escapes or makes a run for it or does something unpredictable or different. Maybe they got some education about how to handle the tarantulas. I'm hoping that they did some studying. I felt that the way that they were handling the tarantula was a little bit rough. I will say that the way that the person who was picking up the tarantula, and they took turns doing this, they did the pinch grab, which it looked a bit clumsy to me. I guess there's no great way to pinch grab an OBT because that is a fast spider. But this is not something that I would have ever attempted. Like first of all, I don't hold my tarantula anymore, but in the past when I used to do a very passive, like get on my hand and just scoot slowly towards my hand and onto my hand. I have never attempted to do one of these, and I will never, because that seems terrifying to me. So, I will say that because it seemed like the tension in the video was so high, like the person who was holding their arm out and waiting for the tarantula to bite them so that they could do the show is already tense. And the other host who is picking up the tarantula to put the tarantula onto his friend's arm so that the tarantula could bite him, it's just a tense situation. Nobody's having a great time of it. And the person who's holding the tarantula knows that they're going to be next, so they're already terrified. So this is just really irresponsible. They had to grab the tarantula pretty quickly because they know that like the tarantula is not going to like this at all. So it seemed like they had to kind of squish the tarantula a little bit or be a little bit rough Of course, there's always the risk that the tarantula is going to freak out, fall. None of that safety stuff was done to make it so that the tarantula wouldn't get hurt. And then, of course, we have the actual bite. Now, I do believe that in a different context, done a little bit more responsibly, with a little bit better, accurate information, this could have been a very useful educational tool. I do think that it is useful for others to see and hear about the pain and how the pain progresses from a tarantula bite, especially different species. I think that's wonderful. I also think it's quite educational to even see bites, because I think that, especially for newer tarantula owners, we need to be able to show them, like, yeah, it's a furry, fluffy spider, but like this thing does have some pretty serious teeth on it, and it's painful. It will be painful. Don't play around with this. So in the video, you see one of the hosts put the tarantula on the arm of the other host, and the way that I think he was holding the spider kind of forced the spider to expose its fangs off the bat, and the bite happens pretty quickly. And I can only imagine how scary this situation was for everybody involved, for the spider, for the two hosts. Like, you've got one host who has to control their reflexes not to move their arm away so that the spider, rips their skin, or that the spider gets hurt. Then you have the person who's doing the holding of the spider not being able to let that spider go, and having to control the motion to know when to pull the spider away from the skin before their co-host reacts. And you got the crew, right? No pressure, right? But you got several people filming, people watching. It's just a terrible situation. And you can see in the episode, which I'll leave the link to below, that the spider, they really do grab on to the skin. I thought that was really useful to see. But I also think that it does portray tarantulas in a kind of inaccurate light, in that in this particular footage, the spider looks like, oh, it's just, the tarantula is just always ready to go, always ready to bite. And some of you may say that about the OBT in particular, or if you have another tarantula who really doesn't like to be bothered. But I will say that for most tarantulas, this is not the case. Tarantulas don't just come out of their environment with their fangs displayed. Usually they have to be pushed. And I will say that in this scenario, these tarantulas were certainly pushed. I don't think it's fair to put creatures in this position. This tarantula certainly could have been hurt. I was holding my breath and horrified as I was watching it. And I think there are better ways that we can educate people. I think that bite reports that a lot of tarantula owners will do are very, very useful. And I think they're wonderful, because this is after a bite has already happened that we didn't intend for it to happen. Like this kind of forced biting for this show like this. It just seems like there's a high likelihood of the animal getting hurt or something else irresponsible or unethical to happen. But it is an entertaining show to watch. I do think that there are some good things about it. I wish the information had been a bit more accurate, that they would have taken some more safety precautions, and that they wouldn't have kind of egged the tarantula on so much to do the biting, because I think that as a viewer watching it, if I didn't have the knowledge and compassion that I do for tarantulas and know that they are not biting machines, I might have thought differently. This might have really made my perception of tarantulas worse and made me want to avoid them. But anyway, have you seen that episode? Let me know what you think. If you haven't, I'm going to leave a link in the description. It's a very interesting show. And what do you think about shows like that? Do you think they're educational, useful? Do you think that they should not be allowed? I feel like sometimes I lean a little bit towards that, because I'm kind of like, what is the line between consent and animal abuse and fear-mongering and irresponsible behavior? But I can be a little extreme sometimes in that sense. So Let me know what you think, and I will see you next week for Tarantula Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.